Hi everybody, my name is Matthew Gouin. I'm one of the sales managers here with Cornerstone. I'm going into my 5th year now. If you're kind of like I was when I first started, you're a little shell-shocked, you probably just got out of training, you might have been here on maybe a week or two. It's great because you get all this knowledge and everything, but it's really hard to take that and portray that to the client in the easiest way. We are dealing with seniors, so you can't be too technical with them. So what I'm going to show you here in the next half hour to 45 minutes are a couple of basic presentations that I actually do in the house that I found to be very helpful and hopefully to make you successful as well. This first part here is what I call the diamond, or what we call the diamond in this industry. This is the just different basic core parts to Medicare. I'm going to go over the basic diamond with you and how to do some fact finding, and then I'm going to do what's called a Core 4 presentation. And that's going to explain a couple different presentations to really get into some of the nuts and bolts of it. So this right here is the actual that you'll see and that what you show to the clients. And I bring this in with every single house I go into. I have this, I have a fact finder, and I have a little Medicare cheat sheet if they're turning 65. Okay? And it's really important after you do a really good warm-up, these clients are going to react to you. Okay, when I walk into a house every single time, I treat them like I'm going to visit my grandmother or my aunt and uncle, and it makes things a whole lot easier. If you're nervous and you're scared or timid, then they're going to pick up on that and they're going to kind of react that way. If you walk in there and you act like their family, they're going to treat you the same way. Okay, so make sure when you knock on that door, make conversation right off the bat. You don't have to say, oh, you remember we had our appointment today? Just assume that they remember. You don't have to make things more awkward than you have to. Okay? So once you do a really good warm-up and you start going into this, I pull this sheet out and say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. I give them a little resume about myself and my background, talk about my 2 girls and my wife. I also go through a little bit about Cornerstone and what we do. Okay? And when I pull this out and we're going to go over Medicare changes and updates, I'm going to go over this with them and say if there's any red flags come up, I'm going to let you know about it. Okay? And ultimately, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, there's 3 parts to Medicare. Your first part here is your Medicare Part A. This is going to cover the hospital side. Okay? Medicare Part B, this is the one that covers the doctor. And this is the guy that takes out that money in your Social Security check every single month. That pays for your Medicare. Okay? The newest part to Medicare is the Medicare Part D as in dog. And that's going to help cover your prescriptions. Now, what kind of prescriptions do you take right now, Mrs. Jones, or what do you take them for? Do you take like a high blood pressure or a cholesterol? And this is really important. You want to know what they take them for. If you ask what prescriptions they're taking, they're going to come over with a laundry basket and dump them on the counter and say, these are all my prescriptions. Or a list of all these things you've never heard of, and you have to go through one by one and actually find out what they're there for. So just conversationally say, what do you take them for now, like a high blood pressure or a cholesterol? Because that's what you're looking for. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones say, oh, I take high blood pressure and I take a cholesterol pill. And that's it. Okay? After you've talked about this a little bit, you want to ask about their overall health. There's been some clients before that have had some pretty extreme surgeries or cancers, and they're not being treated for it anymore, and it's been 2 or 3 years. Okay? So always make sure, they may not be taking any medications, but ask about major surgeries or major operations. That's really important. Okay? And another thing, when you're asking any of these questions, whether you're talking about the fact finder, you're talking about investments, premium, savings, all those different questions, make sure you ask the question and then lead them out there a couple more times with things. Okay? Mr. and Mrs. Jones, when you're talking about your Social Security, is that around $1,100 or $1,200 a month now? No, it's actually $1,420. Okay, great. Those are the questions you want to ask, and that's the way you want to ask them, because if you just say, how much money do you get per month? It's a little bit more of an interrogation. You don't want to have that. Okay. So again, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you've got the 3 basic principles of Medicare: A, B, and D. Okay. When you go to the doctor, what card do you show them now? Do you show them like an AARP or Blue Cross card? Yeah, I've actually got AARP, and I'm really happy with them, by the way. That's fantastic. It's the Plan F, and it covers everything, and I love it. Okay. Now, is your premium on that per month? Is that about $130 or $140 a month? No, it's actually about $163. Okay, and then you also have their drug plan as well? Yep, I love it. Okay, that's fantastic. This next part here is really important. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's not a lot of people spending a whole bunch of time in the hospitals now. basically the average stay is 2 to 5 days, and they say basically, you know, when your foot hits the floor, you're out the door. Okay? So once you leave the hospital and you go into a long-term care situation, it's really important. Medicare will help pay for it, but there's 4 different triggers that have to apply. The first one is 3 full days. If I woke up in the hospital and I had a stroke, Medicare would require me to stay in that hospital for 3 full days before my treatment. If I'm there for 2.5 days, I need to handcuff myself to the bed or go hide in the bathroom for that 3rd day, because if not, Medicare is not going to pay for it. Okay? And this is important because a lot of the Medicare and the supplement side to it are all joined together with the long-term care. And if Medicare doesn't approve of it, neither will your supplement. That's very important. Okay? So I've spent my 3 full days in the hospital and I'm ready to go. I've got 30 days to start receiving that care. Okay? It's a 30-day window. If, for instance, you know, my wife and I'm 75 years old and I come down with Alzheimer's, and you know, I go into the hospital and then I come out, Medicare is going to require me to spend the 3 full days in the hospital. Okay? If I get so bad that I need supervision, okay, Medicare is not going to cover an adult babysitter. Okay? You have to jump in within 30 days. You can't have somebody take care of you for 6 months and then come back and say, hey, Mr. Medicare, I need your help. I kind of combined 2 of them there. I'm going to get into the next one. So 3 full days in the hospital, 30-day window, and this 3rd one is just like I said, they will not cover adult babysitting. They will only cover skilled care. These are things like occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapists, typically things that would, after like a stroke or things like that, okay? But it's very important. For folks who do have long-term care policies in force, they need to know what these are for Medicare to trigger it, because they're probably relying on this to pay for the elimination period or the deductible, so to speak, with their long-term care policy. In case somebody stops you and interrupts you and said, hey, I don't need to know about that, I've got a John Hancock long-term care, they've got an elimination period or a deductible in long-term care, in the long-term care world, where somebody's going to have to pay for the first 30, 60, 90 days, whatever that amount is. And you want to make sure that Medicare and your AARP do that. Okay? So now I say, hey, you know what, Matt? Thank God you went through this for me. I spent my 3 full days. I jumped in within a 30-day window. The doctor said that I need skilled care, and now I'm getting my care. This 4th trigger is very important. You always have to be showing signs of improvement. Okay? So if I had a stroke and I'm working and I'm getting better throughout time, and I plateau off, I'm better than when I started, but I'm not getting any better. Medicare says, hey, we're done paying your bill. You want to get that therapy? You want to continue to have that nurse come out? That's on your bill now. Okay? It's coming out of your pocket. So, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I'm not to scare you, but a lot of people have concerns about what's going on with long-term care now. It does happen to a lot of folks. It actually happened to my grandmother. She come down with Alzheimer's. But there's ultimately 3 ways to pay for it. I do not write this down. This is all part of the script that I have as well. But the 3 ways to pay for it, and I show them the 3 fingers just like this. Okay? The first one is I don't have any money. I've got Medicaid and the state's going to pay for me. That's great. Okay? The next one is I do have assets. And this is what happened to my own grandmother. She didn't have money in the bank, but she had a house that was worth a couple $100,000. And they're going to spend out your assets until you qualify for Medicaid. Okay? And this last one is through a long-term care type insurance policy, through a John Hancock or a MetLife, etc. I'm not here to sell you a long-term care policy, but I'm going to explain to you what happens if something happened to you or your wife. Okay? That's really important because they're expecting you to say, hey, this guy's going to try to sell me something. What's he trying to sell? And you say that, it kind of puts them at ease. I'm not going to try to sell you long-term care, but I'm going to show you the different options that they can look at if something were to happen to either one of you. Okay? Did you know they can actually look at the cash value inside of your life insurance? The policies you have now, is that through like a MetLife or a Prudential? Oh yeah, it's actually MetLife, okay? And what kind of policy is that? Is that like a whole life or a term or a universal? I don't know. I've had this thing for 28 years now. I've had it for a long time. The thing's worth like 50 grand. Oh, it is, okay. And have you ever borrowed against it? No, I never borrowed against it. Okay, well, what's your premium now? Is it about, $30, $40 a month? Nope, it's paid up. I don't have to pay for it anymore. The dividend's paid for. Okay, fantastic. Make sure you write that down. Take all these good notes here. Dividends paid for it. The reason why I asked them, Mr. Jones, is because with these whole life policies like this, these policies have what's called a cash value inside of it. And that's one of the things the government can actually look at to prevent you from getting Medicaid. Okay, and that's really important. Hey, I don't have any money in the bank, but I do have a whole life policy that's got 12 grand of cash value in it. Okay, so that's important. I do mention that, and this last part here is extremely important. This is where we talk about the retirement income and savings. There's three major things that they can look at. They being the state of South Carolina and the actual nursing homes. The first one is going to be your income, and this is going to be your fixed income. Typically you have your Social Security, which again is around what, $1,100–1,200 per month? Okay, it's $1,320. And Mrs. Jones, is yours more or less than your husband's? Oh, it's not quite as much, it's only $750. Okay. And now you also have, do you have any form of pension or retirement? Yeah, I've got a veteran's pension that I had before, and that's, is that more or less than your Social Security? Oh, it's a little bit more, it's about $1,700 a month. Okay, great. This next part is a great transition from your income into your savings. Okay, I'm going to put savings here now because that's going to be my intro into it, but this is important. I always ask Mr. and Mrs. Jones, are you drawing off of your investments to live off of now, or can you just leave those alone? I don't have any investments. Okay, I just answered that, you know, two birds with one stone. There's two questions gone. Okay, so, and then if they say, there's three different options. I don't have any investments. The next one is, yeah, I actually draw another $600 a month out of that for my savings to help live off of. And obviously the third one is, yes, I have my investments, but no, I'm just leaving those alone. I don't have to touch them until I'm 70 and a half because it's an IRA. There's different ways of answering that. So, like I said here, once you get into this part of those three options, hey, you're drawing off your investments, you're not drawing off your investments, and you don't have any, it helps segue into this second part here, the savings. All right? So like I said, this last part's really important overall because these are the things they can look at if you went into a nursing home or an assisted living facility. Okay? They're going to look at your income that you have, Social Security and pension. They're going to look at any kind of savings you have. And the savings you have now, I know you said you've got a little bit like IRA. Do you work with somebody at the bank, or is that more of like a brokerage account through like a Merrill Lynch or Smith Barney? Okay? And I'm going to let Dave talk more about the money side. This is a very conceptual, very easygoing type presentation. You don't want to spend all your efforts in any one section of this while you're fact-finding, and I learned that the hard way. Okay? I would come up here when I first started, and I would pivot to this AARP, and I'd say, hey, I got something better. I can save you $40 a month. I'd get all my rate sheets, and they'd say, you know what? I'm never switching to AARP. I love it. And then I'd be like, great. I just shot myself in the foot, and I just X'd out 75% of the other presentation. So, no matter what you do, this is all very light and airy, and it's all based off of their comfort. Hopefully with a good warm-up and talking more the Medicare side, it's going to go a little bit smoother. When it comes to the investments, sometimes I have people, they just kind of start pulling out statements when I ask the right questions. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it at all. Okay? The more comfortable you are, you can ask the right questions. Do you work with somebody at the bank, or do you work with somebody in the market? When you're talking about these things, let's say these people have $500,000. And it's with Edward Jones. Your conversation, unless you're licensed, your conversation does not have to be about all the different class of mutual funds, ETFs, all the different things. It could be just in general. You know, how do you feel about the market right now? You know, are you in the accumulation phase still, or are you in preservation phase? And we'll talk about that a little bit more in later trainings. But different ways of talking about their money. For this situation, all you're talking about it for is that's what they can look at if you go into a nursing home. Okay? And then there's this last one here. And these are all of your fixed assets. Okay? This is really important. These are things that, like my grandmother, this is one of the biggest things. It's not so liquid if you've got a well spouse in the home, but if you've got one surviving spouse left in that family and they go to a facility, this is one of the biggest assets that seniors are seeing swallowed up by these by the cost of nursing homes. Okay? In your home now, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, is that around $250,000, $300,000? Always be complimentary. Don't go too over the top, obviously. And if they don't know, don't make this a 10-minute conversation. I don't need to know their loan balance. I don't need to know all that stuff right off the bat. Again, it's light and airy. So to summarize, and you'll see this in the paragraph with a cheat sheet, to summarize, what they're going to do is if you went into a nursing home, you're going to go and you're going to spend some time in the hospital, you're going to have that long-term care, and as long as these things apply here, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Medicare is going to cover days 1 through 20, 100%. You don't have to pay anything for the first 20 days as long as it's Medicare approved. Days 21 through 100, you would ordinarily have to pay a copay. Because you've got a supplement, Plan F, your skilled nursing coinsurance is going to cover that. Okay? So, after those 100 days, you would qualify for a long-term care situation that you hear about all the time. Now they look at the cash value inside of life insurance, they look at the income you have, they look at the savings you have, and they also have fixed assets, home, land, properties, businesses. And basically what it's like is kind of like a fireplace burning really hot. These nursing homes are charging anywhere between $50,000 and $80,000 a year. So when you're charging somebody $50,000, $80,000 a year and you've got $500,000 here, that could be gone in 7 or 8 years. Okay? And that's what you really want to look at. It's basically like taking that fireplace, burning at $50,000, $80,000 a year. You've got all your assets over here like logs, and every single year they take some logs and they throw them into that furnace until it's gone. When that fire goes out and you're out of logs, now you'll qualify for Medicaid, mind you, and that's what a lot of people are going through now. So I kind of help explain with that. So these are different ways. This is just a quick cheat sheet. If somebody's extremely interested in this stuff, or this stuff, or this stuff, or this stuff, now's my chance to pivot after I've got 75% of the information that I need, if not more, depending on how open they are. Okay? So this is just the regular diamond. You know, sometimes I take the fixed assets and put that first, or different things here. The actual script is going to have it all down, but you see I follow the same kind of vibe. Okay? I'm going to take my jacket off here, get into the nitty-gritty stuff, the fun stuff I like to call it. This is a non-wrinkle shirt, even though it's wrinkled. I apologize for that. Okay, you say, Matt, you know what? I did my fact finder. I'm sitting in front of the clients. I got their attention. They seem to like me. You know, they answered some of the questions. Now I have to pivot, and I have no idea what to talk about. I heard Dave Armbruster mention an indexed annuity with a bonus. Do I start talking about that? Do I talk about life insurance? You know, where do I go and how do I talk about this? Okay, that's what I'm going to get into next. This first one here, again, this is part of the Core 4 presentations. When you saw me do my diamond, you saw 4 topics of discussion there, and this is one presentation for each of those. And whenever I pull this sheet out that I showed you before, the back of these is always blank. When I leave a house, there's typically one of those Core 4 presentations written on the back of here. Okay? These will be in another spreadsheet for you in a format like that. I want you to memorize these because it's a whole lot different when you actually handwrite in front of a client. It shows you have the knowledge. Okay? So let's say we're going to talk about the first one, and these folks are turning 65, or they're confused about Medicare supplements and Advantage plans and everything else out there. Okay? So when I talk to folks about this, I say, well, essentially, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, when you qualify for Medicare, this is going to give you your A and your B, right? Medicare Part B is about $115.40. Comes right out of your Social Security check. You have to have Medicare for any of these situations to be possible. The first one over here is going to be Medicaid. if you have Medicaid, state pays for everything, including your Medicare premium, okay? The traditional side, for folks who cannot qualify for Medicaid, is going to be over here, and these are going to be the Medicare supplements, or a Med Supp. Okay? On this side, the Med Supp here, I always review the actual grid with them, the plans A through F that they have out there, okay? And this is all a basic cheat sheet to explain to the clients what's the difference between Medicare supplements and Advantage plans. And it's all conceptual. I'm not going to use any specific figures. I'm going to explain to them the concept, find out which one they're looking for, and then give them the exact numbers based off of the actual theory. So the Medicare supplement, let's talk a little bit about this. Any doctor accepts Medicare supplements as long as they accept Medicare. This is important, okay? Once you have a Medicare supplement, you're going to pay a higher premium. I'm going to put an up arrow, okay? Your premium will be more. It might be $100, $120, $140 based off of which one you go through. But when it comes to co-pays, $0. Again, depending on which one you go with. The Plan G obviously has a Part B deductible, but essentially this is the overwhelming theme of a Medicare supplement. Any doctor will accept it as long as they accept Medicare. The premium is going to be a little bit higher. You still have to pay your Medicare premium here, but when you go to the doctor, everything's essentially covered. There's no kind of miscellaneous bills showing up. When you get a Medicare supplement, you also have to get a standalone drug plan through Part D. And this can range anywhere from $30 to, let's say, $60 a month. So keep that in mind. If a supplement costs roughly $140 and a drug plan costs another $30, now you're looking at $170 a month on top of this Medicare premium. Okay? Again, it's just concepts. This is exactly how I explain it in the house as well. Okay? So now we say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, for folks who don't qualify for Medicaid, you know, I'd love to have the state pay for all your health care. Unfortunately, your income is too high right now and your savings. For folks who don't want the Medicare supplement, can't afford it, whatever else, they came out with a newer program a few years ago, and this is called Medicare Advantage. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about how this works. You got Part A is the hospital, if you remember. Part B is the doctor. This Medicare Advantage is actually considered Medicare Part C. Okay? If you take Medicare Advantage, you still have Medicare because you can't get this without Medicare. Okay? So you have Medicare, you get Medicare Advantage, you're no longer going through Medicare billing, you're going through the insurance company's billing. So instead of having a Medicare supplement and a Medicare program working together like a zipper, you're actually going to take out this and just have the insurance company's guidelines. When you have something like this, there's going to be co-pays involved. Okay? The co-pays can range anywhere from $25 to $50 co-pays. We talked over here, the Medicare supplement, any doctor, over here, doctors have to be in a network. If they're not in a network, then the doctor has to approve it if it's private fee-for-service. Okay? So if you get somebody who's really picky about their doctor and they don't want to go anywhere else but that particular physician, then you want to make sure that their doctor is in that network. You don't want to have that kind of issue come up. Okay? So Medicaid, the state pays for it. Medicare supplement, any doctor accepts it. Higher premium, zero co-pays, standalone drug plan, but it covers everything for you. If they can afford it and they don't mind, this is a great way to go. For folks who are looking for something else that either are wealthy that can afford co-pays, or if they can't afford it, there's the Medicare Advantage. Okay? $25 to $50 co-pays, the doctor has to be in network. Let's talk about the premium. The premium on these things, they can go anywhere from a zero premium up to about, $59 or so. Obviously these numbers vary, and this is just conceptual once again. So ultimately what you're talking about here is instead of having $170 a month and not paying anything out of pocket, what you would do is you would save that premium every single month and you would use that to pay co-pays. okay? A lot of these Medicare Advantage plans, they can actually encompass the Part C and the Part D all on one card. For instance, the Humanas, the Any plan, today's options, all those different programs, you can couple both the Part C and D together. So it's a different way of looking at it, but for the right clients, it really helps them out. And a lot of discussion talks about here is you want to be careful as far as scope of appointment go, but when you're talking conceptually, if they don't have any life insurance and they can't afford that, but they know they need it, a lot of times what folks are doing is they're going with a plan like this and getting, in my mind, a B plus or a B type insurance and getting a B plus or a B type life insurance. Instead of getting one A plus phenomenal med sup and having 0 for life insurance, you kind of have a little bit of both. That way you're not too exposed. Okay. Again, you got to be very careful scope of appointment wise with the Department of Insurance. You don't want that, could be a nightmare for you. But overall, it's a good concept to use. So these are different ways to explain the Medicare. There's a cheat sheet if you cannot read this off the board. I understand it's probably really tiny coming out of the little screen. But there will be a cheat sheet that I actually wrote out here. A lot of people ask me, Matt, what's better for the client? Okay? The best thing is what the client thinks is the best. When you explain this to them, this is all you do, and this is really important. You don't want somebody to come back to you and say, Matt, I had prostate cancer, and I had a bill come in for $1,300 bucks. Well, what do you mean? Well, what's going on here? I thought I was supposed to cover everything for you. No, that's where the Medicare supplement comes in. Okay? If you wanted to pay a higher premium, that's the 0 copays and everything, but it would cover all of it for you. There's a reason why it's only a 0 premium or a lower premium plan. What is nice to know, which is important, is there is an out-of-pocket maximum. I love buckets. You guys are going to learn this real quick. This is basically your insurance pool. Okay? Every single time you pay a copay, and these vary. This is for office visits. There are some for different diagnostic tests, MRIs, CT scans, the more expensive ones. Overnight in the hospitals get more expensive, but ultimately everything that you pay out of pocket goes into this bucket here, okay? Once this bucket hits the OOP, okay, out of pocket, I'll call it OOPM, the OOPM, the out of pocket maximum, this can be anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000. That's the absolute worst case scenario that can happen in a year. So it's nice for somebody who's really limited income to say, hey, I'm kind of concerned about Medicare not having any caps to it. Well, let's go and get you something like this, and your out-of-pocket maximum is going to cap you anyways. You have a $100,000 surgery come in, and you're only responsible for $5 or $6 grand. It's a pretty good deal, especially if you're paying hardly any premium for it. Any questions? Of course not. I'm just kidding. That is the ultimate way to explain that, because that's a quick 5 to 10 minute presentation. Once you understand what they're looking for, now you can break into these specific Humanas or any plans like I mentioned before. Now you can really open it up and discuss what they're looking for. Because they also offer dental benefits, gym memberships, all sorts of good stuff. Okay, next we're going to talk about the long-term care side. Okay, and again, you don't want to bust out more than 1 or 2 of these in a house. I'm just showing you these there because you have to kind of find the hot button. This next one is actually really good. A lot of folks we run into now, they may have investments. It might be in the stock market, might be elsewhere. They may be able to fund long-term care on their own. They're certainly not going to want it. For those people that are in the river in Egypt there, the denial that I'm not going to go into a long-term care facility, I'm not going to get old, I'm not going to die, this is a great presentation for them. Okay? So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, obviously I know you have a concern for long-term care. Let me explain to you a little bit more about the programs they just came out with. So traditional long-term care is on this side. This would be through a Met or John Hancock, Transamerica, different programs that they offer. In traditional long-term care, it's kind of like when you go on vacation. If you're planning a vacation like my wife and I are doing for Disney World pretty soon, we're going to look at how much it costs per day to stay at that facility, right? We stay at the beach club, it's going to be $300 a night to stay there. That's going to be your daily benefit. too well when it's wet. Your daily benefit is going to be $300 a day. Okay, that's how much it costs to stay there. The next one's going to be like, how long are we going to stay there for? Okay, we're staying there for a week, right? That's going to be your benefit multiplier. In this situation, I always use 1,095 days. For all you math whizzes out there, that's 3 years, okay? And when we're talking about this, the average stay in an actual facility is about 2.75 years statistically. Some folks are there for 6 months, some folks are there for 6, 7, 8, 10 years, depending on the illness that put them there, okay? So again, I'm going on vacation, how much I'm spending a day, how long I'm staying there for. This next one here, obviously not as fun as a Disney World vacation, but you do want to explain it in a way that they actually get it. How much per day, how long you're there for. This last one here is an elimination period. Like I mentioned before in the Medicare presentation, this is the amount of time that it takes before your actual long-term care policy would pick up. If I get in a car accident with State Farm, I pay the first $500, they cover the rest, right? Same thing here, but instead of money, it's going to be time. They say, hey, whatever the bill is, you're going to cover the first amount of days. For this instance, we're going to put 90-day elimination. So it's up to me to pay the first 90 days, and then after that, the long-term care policy would pick up, okay? You can also offer different programs here, like inflation. They have different ones, CPI, compounding. Different ways to have that pool grow. Obviously, the cost of a nursing home is much more expensive as it was 20 years ago, okay? So this is traditional long-term care. You would pay a premium of anywhere from $200 to $800 a month, depending on how fancy you wanted it. The biggest reason why my clients didn't like this or weren't comfortable is if you don't use this, this premium is gone. If you die at 92 years old because of a heart attack and you pass away and never use this long-term care, all those years worth of premium vanished, right? So it's one of those situations where not only do people now want to think about getting old and getting sick, now I got to pay a premium for a kick-in-the-butt insurance policy. Nobody wants a kick in the butt. Why am I going to buy a policy that gives that to me? Okay? So basically when you're talking here, a lot of folks say, hey, I know there's a need for it. What else is there besides a traditional long-term care route? And that's where Lincoln Financial Group came up with a program called the Money Guard. The way that this works is, especially with a lot of clients now, they're a little apprehensive about throwing their money into mutual funds and ETFs and stocks at their age of 65 or 70. They may be a little bit more conservative, where something's not going to make a ton of interest, but it's there and it's nice and safe, right? Well, how about taking some of that safe, liquid money, moving it with an insurance company, and populating a bunch of different benefits? And that's what we can show with Lincoln, okay? Again, I'm going to put LFG, which is Lincoln Financial Group. And they came up with a program called the Money Guard. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you guys are millionaires, you have a beautiful home here. Let's say you had $50,000 just sitting in an account somewhere. You take that money and put it into the Lincoln Financial Money Guard, it's going to generate different things here. Yes, again with the buckets, I love them. This $50,000 deposit automatically gives you a death benefit. And these, again, are arbitrary numbers. Gives you an automatic death benefit of $125,000. You put 50 grand in with them, you pass away 4 years from now, here's 125 grand tax-free to your beneficiaries. Okay? Pretty good stuff, right? That's the first one. The second one is going to be bigger. And I'm drawing this bigger for a reason, Mrs. Jones. This is going to be considered your long-term care benefit. You put $50,000 into Lincoln, they automatically give you a long-term care benefit of $225,000. Okay? They also have a residual. This is going to be a little tiny bucket. This is a residual death benefit. right? And basically what this means is 10% of the original death benefit will be paid out no matter what. So 10% of $125,000 is $12,500. Okay? I skipped over this a little bit here because I want to explain to you the circumstances that would happen. Let's say Mr. and Mrs. Jones, the husband has a heart attack, or let's say a stroke, that'll actually work better. Husband has a stroke and he wakes up and he needs physical therapy for 2 years. Okay? Really, really rough shape, needs speech therapists, everything out there. And he needs to start dipping into this long-term care benefit here. Let's say after 2 years, he's used up $80,000, right? That $80,000 would come out of the long-term care benefit. It would come out of here. It would also come out of this side as well. And I'm going to explain to you how this works. So if $80,000, that's the care that he used, so $80,000 comes out of here. He goes back into a long-term care facility. He's got the $80,000 minus this, which is going to be $145,000. Okay? That's how much he has left if he goes back in. He's already used this 80 grand. That's how much he has left if he goes back in for something. If he passes away after that happens, that whatever this 80,000 came out of it, if 80,000 comes off of here, there's 45,000 left, right? So we started with 125. The long-term care kicked out it and paid out 80 grand for him, and then he passes away. His beneficiary gets a check for the 45,000 bucks that's left. Okay? So the 80 grand comes off of both of those. Now, what happens if this guy uses $600,000 worth of long-term care benefit? He went through all his long-term care pool and he drained everything. So 225 is drained, death benefit is gone. If all of this happens, the residual benefit pays out no matter what. Okay? It's not going to be a big, huge chunk of change, but $12,500 is a pretty decent amount to help cover some funeral expenses or final costs. Okay? The real cherry on top, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, because it does give you those added benefits, at any given time, there is 100%, I'm going to make this bigger for you, 100% ROP. Not RIP, ROP. ROP is return of premium. If at any given time you want your 50,000 bucks back, you take it back, no questions asked. Awesome, awesome stuff, guys. And what this is also going to do for you is this has gone a couple different ways for me. When I show them this presentation on the back, show this to you again, on the back of this is what I use all these things for, guys. I show them this, obviously it's a little bit more separated. I kind of get a little condensed there, but when I show them something like this, now they've really got something to think about. You know, I actually do have a bond here that just came due, or I mean a CD or something that just came due, and it's not paying interest. I might as well give with these guys over here and get all these benefits out of it. If I die, here's an extra 75 grand for my wife. If I go into a nursing home, thank God I had this. I had 225 grand, and I only put up 50 grand up front. At any given time, I'm taking my 50 grand back if I want to or if I need to. Pretty good stuff. Hey, you know what? I don't want to give you 50 grand. I just want to go with the traditional long-term care and pay my premium. It answers all those questions for you, so you don't have to be that guy. Just like the Medicare presentation, which one do you like better? Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you have millions of dollars. I understand that. Obviously, it's a big deal. Which one of these looks more appealing to you? Oh, I definitely like this. Is good stuff. I like this here. Well, let's not put the cart before the horse. This is just a concept, okay? You could be brand new, like I said before. This is designed for folks 2 weeks in the business to just talk about this a little bit. And then when you say, hey, listen, they start asking you real detailed questions about this, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I wasn't prepared to go over all the depths of this. I understand it's a big need and concern of yours. What I'll do is I'll put some ideas together for you. I'll stop back in next week, Wednesday. I've got a couple openings. I've got a 2:30 or I've got a 5:30. Which one's better for you? They go and get their calendar book, they pencil you in, you come back and say, hey, XYZ manager or veteran agent or whoever you want, I need some help. I got a great go back. This guy's really interested and I have no clue. I just used that stupid Core 4 thing that Matt Gouin showed me. Okay? This is what this stuff is designed for. Then when you go back there and you've got somebody that can answer every single question they have, they can overcome objections. they can get the sale in situations where you might be a little bit more apprehensive. Okay? I just want to think about it. I want to talk to my kids. Your manager's going to, you know, they've been through training before. They've gone through it a bunch of times, and they can help push that sale forward. So, all these core 4, other than the Medicare one, are basically designed to bring go-backs. That's where you're going to see the most, guys, and I promise you, I would not be here right now if I tried doing it all on my own. That's what I did the most of. Mike Kelly, Dave Armbruster, Jonathan Boer. Hey guys, I got a great one. I need you to show me. I'm terrified. The guy's got 10 million bucks. I'm 22 years old, and he wants to do investments. Okay, get used to doing that. You can see it all right, in person. These are all great, but when you see somebody in the house do it, it's a whole lot better for you. All right, good stuff. This is my favorite. When I talk to folks in general, basically if you've heard me before, I'm known for doing life insurance like crazy. I love life insurance. And the reason why is because most of the people I meet with already have it. So I don't have to sell them a concept and tell them that they need more of anything. I'm taking what they have and making it better. I'm trimming the fat off of what they have going on, and people love saving money or increasing their value. Okay? So let's say the same situation where the guy had 50 grand in MetLife. Let's say it was a little bit higher. Just for my numbers' sake, I wrote down here. I want to keep it up with the chart that I left with you guys. Let's say it's a $200,000 policy that he has, right? And these numbers are completely arbitrary, guys. I've done this with little tiny policies, and I've done it with great big ones, okay? So as for right now, this policy is worth $200,000 when he passes away, and it happens to be with MetLife. Right? Let's say this $500,000 policy costs him $300, or this $200,000 policy costs him $300 every single month. He takes $300, puts it into the bucket. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, there's little holes in the bottom of this bucket, and some of this $300 that goes in comes back out. That's called the cost of insurance. For this illustration, we'll say the cost of insurance is $200. This is the cost of having that type of death benefit, okay? So now when you have 300 going in, 200 going out, hopefully you guys are all math wizards and you can figure out that that's $100 left over. That $100 stays inside of this policy and builds up cash value here, okay? If he had this thing since 1981, this thing's probably built cash value up quite over the years. He may have, for illustration's sake, let's say he's got $18,000 worth of cash value in it. Right? So I don't forget how much you guys know about the life insurance at this point, but it's very important. When you have cash value here, you want to ask them, what are your purpose of that, of having that type of cash value in there? You get 18,000 bucks of your own money there. What are the different ways of accessing it? You got 200,000 here. When you pass away, your family, your wife, your kids are going to get a check for 200 grand. This cash value stays right with the company. Okay? Well, what are my options for it? You can borrow against it, and they're going to charge you a loan like a credit card, maybe 5, 6, 8%. But that's no fun because now you're borrowing against the old money that you've got sitting in there, right? Borrow it. If you surrender it, then what happens? I'm going to cash it out. I'm putting this money right in the bank. You can kiss that 200,000 goodbye, right? So people are kind of sitting there saying, okay, I don't want to borrow it. I don't want to surrender it. What good is it? And that's what I want to show you right here, okay? Let's talk more about life insurance in general. You took this policy out back in 1981, right, Mr. Jones? Yeah. Well, now that it's 2011, that's 30 years. If you guys are using the same training tape 4 years from now, these numbers are going to be way off, but that's okay. This 2011 that you have here, that's 30 years ago, right? Well, things have changed a lot in the insurance realm in 30 years, and that's what I want to go over for you. So if you've got somebody that's, they took this policy out back here, and let's say that he was 40 years old. Back in 1981, they're going to take a 40-year-old and say, okay, based off of life expectancy in 1981, we're going to expect you to pay for this premium for 30 years, 35 years, and then pass away. Life expectancy is 75. You're going to pay for this policy for 35 years and then pass away. We're going to use your premiums to make good profits, and we'll pay out that benefit, right? Well, when you fast forward to 2011, life expectancy has gone pretty high right now. I think it's somewhere around 85 to 87 years old, depending on if it's a male or female. Well, that changes a lot as far as cost of insurance goes, like we're talking here, okay? Imagine if you guys ever had a mortgage. I know I got mine with Bank of America. If I took out a 15-year mortgage for $300,000 house, and then I said, you know what, Bank of America, I changed my mind. I want to change it into a 30-year mortgage. That premium or that mortgage payment is going to drop considerably because I'm paying for it longer, right? Same exact thing happens here with your life insurance, Mr. Jones. Because you're paying for it even longer because people are living longer, the actual cost of insurance has gone down even though you're older now. So what I'll show you what folks are doing is saying, hey, you know what? I don't want to get rid of my life insurance. I like what's going on here. It's got a purpose. I'm going to draw this bucket bigger for a reason. Okay? There's different options that you have here. You take this cash value that's sitting inside the policy, take it from here, and put it into this one. Client says, whoa, what's going on here? I thought you didn't want to cash it out. This is a little different. This here is called a 1035 exchange. And all that means, that's the IRS saying that we're not going to tax you on it if you take it from a life insurance and put it into another life insurance. You put that money in the bank, you're going to get taxed on it. So when you put that $18,000 in the policy, it's sitting here, right? Doesn't go anywhere. Now you've got some different options. Because the cost of insurance is cheaper here, and you'll see this when you run the software, you can have a couple different options. If he's comfortable paying $300 a month, you may want to see how much more life insurance you can get. Hey, you know what, Matt? I don't mind paying my $300 a month. I'm comfortable with that so far. How much more can you get me instead of $200,000, right? Okay, well, instead of $200,000, now we can get you $280,000 for the same exact premium. And when you pass away, here's an extra $80,000 just for making sure that you're still healthy. Then you get the other folks saying, hey, you know what? Forget the kids. They've got plenty. 200 grand's plenty for the kids or the wife or whatever else it is. I'm really having a tough time making ends meet. So let's take this 8 out and we'll put this back to a 0. Let's keep this $200,000 here. Okay? How much more can we save in premium? That's all like an algebra equation, the x's and the y's and all that good stuff that I don't want to go back to. But now you want to keep this the same, we can knock the payment down to, let's say, $130 or $140 a month. Okay? So there's some really positive stuff here, and it's all about taking what people have and making it better. Mr. Jones, like I told you before with that MetLife policy, if there's any red flags that come up, I'll let you know about it. This might be something that can help you out. Okay? So the general outcome that you have here are 3 different things. The first one is you can get more death benefit. I'm just going to put DB. More death benefit. The second option is going to be less premium. And the third option, which I've run across several times, is a paid-up policy. Okay? Let's say this cash value had built dividends. This guy's had it forever. And he's had this thing come up to, now it's $180,000 of cash value. He can take, let's say there's $130,000 in cash value. He may be able to take that in and get a paid-up policy out of it. There's different options that you have. Again, I wasn't prepared to go in through all this stuff for you today, Mr. Jones. I'm going to go and shop a bunch of different carriers, because at Cornerstone we don't just work with 1 or 2, we work with a bunch of different ones. I'll shop the INGs, the Transamerica, the Lincoln Financial Groups, all the different ones, and see what the best outcome is for you. But ultimately, these are the 3 different ways that we can help folks out here. And I love doing this, just to let you guys know, because it's taking what they have and making it better. Okay? I'm not just selling somebody life insurance because I think they need more. I'm actually saving them money or leaving more behind to the estate. I'm going to show you guys a real life example, and this is extremely important. You can show people that presentation and get them interested, but what's really important is you use that to talk about anything. If they've got a loan on their policy, okay, that will get you to find out. Okay, they say, hey, I've got a $10,000 whole life and I only paid $12 for it. And I just took it out last year and I'm 78 years old. Mrs. Jones, there's some pretty good insurance out there, but that sounds kind of too good to be true. I'm going to make a quick phone call and see what's going on with it. Oh, come to find out it's an accident policy. It only pays out for if you die because of a car crash or an accident, a plane, or a bus. Okay? Now you realize these things are totally different than what they thought they were. You're not paying, $12 or $13. You're paying $86. And you know what? It's a term policy. It's going up next year again too. Oh, really? It just comes out of my bank, and I was wondering what was going on with that. These are things that clients don't always tell you up front that you find out about afterwards. And what I'm getting to is calling up the insurance company. The way to get all those figures about cash value and premiums and everything is calling up the company with the client and just saying, hey, I'm here with Mr. or Mrs. Jones, just had a couple of questions. I'm going to pass the phone over to give permission to speak with me. Okay? So, once you get all the nuts and the bolts to the life insurance and what's going on, can you really jump forward and say, Mr. Jones, you've got a loan on this thing for $1,400. Did you remember that? Oh yeah, that was so long ago. I didn't borrow $1,400. Happens all the time. I didn't borrow $1,400. I only borrowed $700. Yeah, but that was 20 years ago, and that thing's been accruing interest at 7% this whole time, and it's like a cancer that spreads really quickly. Oh, I didn't know that. That's why we do these things. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor for a checkup. Clients get mammograms and colonoscopies and all that fun stuff. I don't look forward to it personally. But they get these things done not because they think they have cancer. And they'll say, hey doc, oh boy, my colon's killing me. I probably have some colon cancer. Why don't you check me out? You get those done in routine things. We do the same thing with people's retirement, whether it's their savings or insurance or whatever else they have, and see if we can make it better for them. But I tell you what, more often than not, I find cancers in those policies, and you have to call the company to get those, because people don't realize that they have it there. Okay, this is a very particular situation. I'm going to leave the name off of it. This is awesome stuff, guys. You're going to like this. This is a guy I ran into in Pawleys Island, okay? And these markers are just not working. I don't care how new they are. Is that 6? Yep, that's 6. Okay? This is what this guy had going on in Pawleys Island, and this guy was all set. If you guys haven't heard it yet, you're going to hear it a bunch of times. Just get used to it. It's not the all set you got to be afraid of. It's handling what you say afterwards. Okay? I'm all set. I got life insurance. I got plenty of life insurance. I'm loaded up. It's with Prudential. I love Prudential. I got all my stuff with them, and it's doing great. Okay? This is what this guy had. He had 6 different policies, right? I explained to him, I did the bucket presentation and said, listen, you had these things for a while? Shoot, yeah, I had it since the 60s, okay? Again, this guy's in good health, so I'm going a little bit more into this. Had he had something extreme, like a heart attack 6 months ago, I wouldn't be having this conversation because I knew he wouldn't get approved. So, these are all the different policies he has, okay? So, some of these were small. I've got one here for $5 grand, 6, another 6, one for 15, one for 80, and one for about 100. So he's got all 6 policies. His total death benefit, I'm just going to put benefit, was $218,732. The reason why it's a funny number is because this is one of those companies that actually pays dividends as well. Okay, so that's his total death benefit. And his premium right now, he's 76 years old, so his premium he pays out annually is $56.61 and 24 cents. Okay? So this is what he has going on. He says, Matt, I'm all set, I'm loaded up. I call up and I found out all this information, right? Well, come to find out, the cash value inside of this policy, like we talked about before, is $100,000. It's 40 grand here, 20 grand here, 11 grand here, 4 grand here. All these different policies were saturated with cash value all the way through. Okay? And I explained to him that that stays inside the policies whether he likes it or not. He dies, Prudential pays out $218,732, nothing more. Okay? So I explained to him what we can do. I drew this bucket over here. Okay? And I gave him different options. These were his options, okay? The first one, keep your $220,000. I'm just going to round it up. Instead of $218,732, keep your $220,000. It'll be $990 a year. Guys, that saves him $4,700 a year, okay? He didn't really realize up front how much money he was saving because I went to go deliver this and he was still kind of questioning a little bit, okay? And I said, that's almost $400 a month. That's like me telling you I'm going to buy you and your wife supplements for the rest of your life. That's pretty powerful stuff. Sometimes you have to explain it to folks, especially when they're worth millions of bucks, okay? So save this guy $4,700 a year. That's a big deal. The other option you have is saying, hey, listen, you know what, Matt? I don't mind paying that premium that we have right now. Let's keep your premium roughly the same. It's actually going to be a little bit less still. $55.38. Okay, so it's still going to be roughly the same. It actually saves him about $70 a year, and I can take his $220,000 and bump it up to $325. Right? Here's an extra $107,000 just for being healthy. Okay? And these are actual numbers. These were his real options that he had. This is all based off of standard. And I knew this was going to be a struggle because he was good friends with the actual Prudential rep. So when I went out to discuss these different options, the Prudential guy was sitting right across from the table from me. So I need to make sure that all my ducks were in a row, and then I knew he was going to try to punch as many holes through it as he could, and it was kind of like a lawyer just defending all the different arguments and going forward. Okay? I knew what he was going to say is, hey, what about that cash value? He can use that cash value and borrow anytime he wants right now. So this is the last option. Okay, you want to do that? Let's keep your death benefit at $220,000, right? You've got over $100,000 in cash value here. Lincoln doesn't need all $100,000 to give you these kind of rates. For $220 grand, same benefit you have now, I can keep your premium the same. $56.58. That's as close as I could get it, right? And what this will do is this will give you $53,250 cash in the bank. That's awesome. There's nothing he can say to that. Why would you want to borrow against $100,000 and pay interest when you can just take 53 grand off the bat? What they would do is take the other 46,750, take 46,750, 1035 that over, and he would have to pay tax on this, obviously, okay? But that can come out of the lump sum. So he gets a check for 50 grand instead. So I'm sitting in front of this guy and said, hey, you want to save 4,700 bucks? You want to get an extra 105,000 for your family and your estate, or do you want to check for 50 grand back? Pen on the table. What do you like? Nothing they can say about it. Okay? Awesome, awesome stuff, guys. This ended up being a $12,000 commission. You're not going to find them all the time, but if you do run into them, you want to make sure you're prepared for them because that's a pretty good week, month, year, whatever you want to call it. So these are the bigger type policies. These numbers with the zeros are just fancy zeros. Take the zeros off of it. Make this a benefit of $21,000. That has a cash value of $5,600 bucks. There are still options we can do with these, and your managers will show you those. Okay? If you're not asking these questions and you're not picking this up, you're not in the right industry. This is what's going to make you successful to be a veteran agent to make $100,000 plus a year if that's what you're looking for. Okay? The business is great for Medicare supplements, for different things, but to sell estate policies like this are what really generate a lot of revenue for you, as well as annuities and big long-term care case and everything. But this is why I'm in the business, guys. I've written a few of these before. I did another one for a client down in Hilton Head. Ended up being a $26,000 commission. Made all the sense in the world for him. I erased a $26,000 loan, gave him an extra $150,000 in death benefit, and still saved him money. So make sure you're talking about this. Those are real numbers. My casket, next time I do this, I needed an assistant here to erase the board for me. Just kidding. I love you, Mike. Okay. So far we've gone over basic Medicare presentation for supplements to Advantage plans. We've gone over the long-term care different options. We've gone through life insurance, just a simple bucket presentation to find out what they have. One quick thing, if they do have a loan against their policy, make sure you incorporate that with the interest and stuff. They may only be paying $20 a month, but if they've got a $4,000 loan against the policy, that's going to be a whole different ball game with interest. You know, now you take a $30, $40 a month premium and add on interest of $700 a year, that's more like a $70 a month payment. So keep that in mind. All right, this is some really fun stuff. So I'm sitting down in front of clients, and this happened when I was younger because I started this in 22. I'm 28 years old now. I really struggled people trusting me and saying, hey, what the heck does this kid know? Okay? So when you're first sitting down in front of somebody, you don't have to know about ETFs or mutual funds or stocks, all these different things. You need to know these basic presentations. This next one I'm going to show you is phenomenal for talking about money. Okay? I call it the tic-tac-toe presentation. You talk to somebody that's got money in the market, money in the bank, money anywhere, okay? And you show them this and see if you can create some interest. This is called the tic-tac-toe. Okay? When I sit down with somebody and say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, basically the money you have now, if you sit down with a financial advisor or certified financial planner, any of those kind of guys, Merrill Lynch, Smith Barney, regardless of who they're with, they're going to break up your money into different sectors based off of your risk tolerance. Okay, so basically what they're going to do is say, okay, Mrs. Jones, we're going to break you up and put you some in the fixed side over here. These are things like CDs, money markets, savings. What do people like about these? And when I talk to clients, I actually ask them, what do you like about CDs, money markets, and savings? Well, I don't know. Do you have to worry about them ever losing value? No. Okay, so they're very safe, right? That's why you have them here. Now, when you sit down with a Merrill Lynch or a Smith Barney, you're not paying for these type of rates for returns. You can just go to the bank for that. So what they're going to say is, okay, I know these are safe, but we need to make up some better returns, right? Because over here on this side, what do people not like about these? Very low returns, especially nowadays, guys. Back in the day when they had, CDs making 3, 4, 5%, I wish. So you got the fixed side over here. We're going to put you in CDs, money markets, and savings. They're not going to make very much money. They're low returns, but at least it's there and it's nice and safe, so you don't have to worry about all your eggs being in the market. But what we're going to do is we're going to put you in the variable side. And I do that for a reason, because everyone's trying to make a quick buck in the market. On the variable side, these are things like stock, mutual funds, ETFs. I mean, there's a bunch of different things that get wrapped around in that. But these are the basic elements they have over here. And this is where you're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, this is where you're paying me the big bucks. I'm going to swing for the fence, and we're going to do some really good, get some good gains here. This is where we're going to get in the side of high potential returns. That's why people are in the market, right? If you ask some of my clients last week how they fared, with Merrill Lynch or anybody else they got their butts handed to them. We had a pretty big slump. We lost about 8% in 5 days. Thankfully, it's back up a little bit. But when you're taking the chances for the high potential returns, it can be very risky. Right? So when we're talking tic-tac-toe here, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, most people don't like this, right? That's my X. but they do like this, right? And then you go to the other side, people don't want to be at risk, especially when you're at your age now. I'm in my accumulation phase. The market drops down, I'm buying as much as I can. I don't care what my wife says. Sorry, honey. But they don't want to be in the market at 65, 7 years old because they're not in accumulation phase like me. They're in preservation. They've worked their entire lives for their life savings. It's kind of like typing up a huge essay. You're 100 pages into it. You want to click and save. You go and you go out to dinner, you leave your laptop there and it gets erased, you're going to be pretty upset. That's another thing I use with my clients. Go ahead and click and save with what you've got right now and never have to worry about it again. It's a pretty good feeling once you save that. Okay? So you want to take the risky side out, but you want higher potential returns, right? Well, I'm going to show you something right in the middle here, and this is what people are looking for. Okay? And I go just to this sheet. If you don't have one of these, this will be on the actual website as well. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit more. I don't know if everybody can read that or not. Basically what I explained to folks is saying, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, this red line right here is the actual S&P 500, this red line. And as you can see, the first year, market shot up and everyone was doing great and they made a bunch of money, right? People are thanking their brokers, oh wow, we're up 20% or 18%. Well, what happens that very next year? Boom. We get crushed, right? Not only did you lose the money that you had made, now you're dipping into your principal. You're sitting down with your broker and saying, hey, listen, buddy, we need to get out of this thing here. We're getting killed. This is where your broker says, hey, don't worry about it. We're here for the long haul. We'll make it back. Boom, you get hit again. Now you're way down. Okay? You take that kind of hit, now you're pot committed. Anybody plays Texas Hold'em or poker, you get all your eggs in there. You get to hope that market comes back. Okay? But every single time, the guy's saying, hey, we cannot get out of the market now. Market does great. Boom, we're back up, right? Oh, that's awesome. Boom, market goes up again. Market goes up again. Keeps going up. What do you tell your broker? Should we sell now? No, now we can't get out. Market's doing great. We're doing phenomenal. Why would you want to get out? We're making 8, 9, 10% returns, right? We get all the way up to the summit here, and then we say, wow, this is awesome. We're doing really great. I started over here. I finally made back to where I was here, and I'm just tipping into more interest. You look at this green line here, that's like a money market or a savings, making a slow interest rate. It's a guaranteed minimum value, okay, in the contract, but it's a 1%, so I relate it to like a money market. That's going slow and steady here. You would have been better off in something like a money market making 1% than rolling your dice on the market. And eventually you make it up to here. You're all the way up to here and you say, hey, this is great. I love my broker. He's giving me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of consistent growth. Boom, there we go. Boom, there we go. And now again, we're back below where we started. Now this line has gone back up again. This is up to 2009, okay? But it's the concept in general I want you guys to see. Market might go all the way up to here again, okay? But it's that whole fear of, I don't want to be in the market anymore, but I still want to have better returns. I don't want the green line. I don't want the red. The porridge is just right with the blue. Okay? And this is what I'm going to show you guys. When the market goes up in this indexed annuity, my clients go up with the market, but it's not as high. If they made 12%, my clients down here might make only 8 or 9. Market drops though, and everyone's screaming at their brokers, my clients get a 0 in their statement. It's corny, but I say, hey, 0's our hero. When you see a 0, you're thanking me for getting you out of that variable product that you had. Oh my gosh, Matthew, I got another 0 in my statement. What are we going to do? I am so mad at you. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, keep in mind, had you been in the market, look at all your friends. And when that market does rebound, like it always does, you're going to mirror that upside, but you're not starting down here, you're starting way back up here. Okay? And then when the market goes up, you're going up with it. Market goes down, you float across. And that's the overall thing that folks are looking for now, okay? Sorry to kind of go into detail with that, guys, but I want to make sure you explain this to the clients because that's how I get in depth with these things. When I explain it to folks, you say, hey, listen, if you guys ever had a wrench before or a ratchet in your hand, that's the metaphor that I use. If you've got a bolt and it's on the wall, and I take a wrench, a regular wrench, and I take that bolt and I tighten it, if I pull back, what's it going to do? It's going to loosen, right? I tighten and I loosen. That's kind of like the stock market. I could tighten this thing 20 different times, but if I loosen it 20 different times, it's going to stay in the same place, right? This index annuity is more like a ratchet. When I take a ratchet, you guys all know what a ratchet is, and you tighten that down, when you bring it back, it doesn't loosen, right? See, tighten and tighten and tighten. And every time you go back, it doesn't loosen. That's exactly what we can show in this kind of thing with the market here. You tighten it, it doesn't go back. You tighten it, it doesn't go back. You tighten, and you keep doing that all the way through. And that's where you get the best of both worlds. And this is what we call the FIA. It's a fixed indexed annuity. Okay? It takes the low returns like you'd see in a bank paying 1% or 0.5%. I've even seen some at like 5 basis points right now. It takes that out of it. It takes the risk out of it because zero is the hero. Okay? The other one I want to mention to you is retain your gains. If somebody makes 15% and has a fantastic year, and the next year that they go broke, they don't lose the interest that they've made. A lot of those clients you see in the actual S&P, they made a bunch of money in 1 year. But do you actually make it if you can't hold on to it? Is it worth typing a 100-page essay if you can't click and save it and it all gets erased? What's the point of your dollars now? This is your life savings. Okay? So this is what we're talking about. You like the safety, you like the chance to make a little bit more money than you see in a bank. That's exactly what the FIA is used for. It is not designed for all your money. I'm not the kind of person to put all your eggs in one basket. Okay? But it's a great program to put a nice, safe foundation for what's going on. What's great about this as well is you can actually access 10% of your money every single year. I love this because it keeps my clients in budget. Now that you're retired, you might be 65, 70 years old. Well, let's make sure this is my life savings. Let's make sure it's there for the long haul. If I take out more than 10% a year, I'd be out of money in about 10 years. Okay? So you want to make sure that you always have that there. So you do have access, you have liquidity. Let's talk about probate. If you've got a CD right now and that goes through probate and you pass away, if you pass away, it's going to go through probate. Now after that probate's done, it's going to take probably about 9 months and then it gets paid out. Well, when it comes to any of these type of annuity programs, an annuity in general avoids probate court. Does not mean a thing to you, but your kids are going to really thank you for it. If you have any parents that have ever passed away and left life insurance or annuities behind, it's a whole different animal than leaving behind stocks or bonds or anything else. Okay? It's a whole different animal completely. So, they also have different things here. There are different programs that actually offer a bonus. I want to make sure this is really important. When I talk to clients, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I want you to actually like the flavor of the ice cream, not just the cherry on top. Okay? This is how the program is designed to take some of the highs without the lows, not hitting 20 or 30% and negative 20, 30. It's more of like a 10 to 12 and a 0. Okay? That's the range we're looking for. Maybe not as high as that. Could be 3 or 4 or 6 or whatever. But I want you to understand how the program works. The bonus is phenomenal. We've got some right now that offer anywhere between a 5% and a 10% bonus. What's great about that is you actually you get that right up front. Clients put in $100,000 into one of the programs, offers a 10%. That's $10,000 up front. It may cost them money to get out of a CD, B-class mutual funds, other things that might take them money to get out of. This will help recoup those costs, okay? And it will bolster that account as well. You can add income riders to it. There's a whole different side to it. What I want you guys to understand is I did not talk about the ING indexed annuity or the Charter 14 with the whatever. I'm talking concept. Mrs. Jones, if you're sick of this and you're sick of this, why not do this? That's basically what you're looking for, okay? Well, what exactly is how does it work and how does it actually pay out the things? Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I wasn't prepared to talk this in depth. I understand that's a concern of yours. What I'll do is I'll bring together some literature for me. I'll drop that by next Wednesday at 9:15, or I've got a 4:30 left. What's better for you? Let's do the 9:15. Come back. Dave, I need you. The guy's got $500,000. All I did was a stupid tic-tac-toe that, again, Matt Gouin showed me. I need to know what to do, okay? Well, you want me to come back on you with it? Yeah, I need you to come back and show me how to do this stuff. Okay. Now Dave goes back. He takes this makes it huge. He goes into depth. He explains all the different ways to allocate funds, what they actually have in their statements. But you let him do all the work. I say open up the cage and just let him go, because that's what he'll do, and he's great at it. So these are the type of programs that you have. And it doesn't matter if it's a CD, whatever else it is, get somebody involved that's done this stuff before. Okay? You pick up a $100,000 annuity, you know, yeah, it'd be great to have 100% in your name, but what are the chances of you actually getting that in your first try? Well, I don't know. I want to talk to my kids about it. Dave's heard that a million times. Let him be the one to overcome that and push forward with the sale. Because nobody wants to just jump out and write a check and do this stuff, okay? Although there are some. But that's called the tic-tac-toe. Use it. This little cheat sheet here is great, okay? It explains the different programs with the market, and I think you guys will really find it pretty powerful. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Again, all of these forms and materials that I've used right now, whether it's the script of the diamond, whether it's one of the core 4 presentations, or this actual chart that I've just shown you, it'll all be on the website. You don't have to write all the stuff verbatim. If you cannot read every little thing on here, don't worry, because the cheat sheets that I have that on it. Okay? This is not fancy stuff. It's very conceptual with clients. I just want to get that point across to you guys. It's really important as well. Know this stuff in your head. Do not print this out, because this is all handwritten. The stuff you guys are going to see is all in my head, and I just hand wrote it out. Okay? Know this stuff. When you go to meet with a client, flip that little diamond over and just draw it out there. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, Mrs. Jones. I wasn't prepared to talk about XYZ, long-term care insurance, estate policies. I'll be back next week. And when you're walking out the door, it was so nice to meet you folks. They're going to appreciate that. I don't like to rush things. I like to take things nice and slow. I'm successful at what I do is because I don't rush into things with my clients. Okay? On your way out there, you can say, hey, listen, you know what? There's a guy in my office. He's pretty sharp. His name is David. If I can squeak him away for about 15, 20 minutes, I'll bring him with me too. He's really sharp with the income models and things too. So, again, but next week I'll see you. You guys stay out of trouble in the meantime. And that's it. You're done. Okay? Thank you guys so much. Successful careers. Let's do it.